Beneath the marble halls and red-starred towers of Moscow, there exists a second city that most Russians will never see. This is not a myth whispered in Cold War thrillers or a fantasy sketched by conspiracy theorists. What would you do if the sirens sounded and you discovered your government had built an entire underground world without you? Context in one breath. During the height of the Cold War, Soviet leadership constructed a vast network of secret tunnels, bunkers, and command centers deep beneath Moscow streets. These facilities were designed to shelter the political elite and military command during nuclear war, while the general population remained above ground with no protection source. Federation of American Scientists Cold War Infrastructure Report, 1998. The existence of Metro 2, as the system came to be known, was officially denied for decades, but has since been partially confirmed by former Soviet officials and Russian government sources. Moscow Times interview with former KGB officer, 2003. This story matters because it reveals the brutal calculus of survival during the nuclear age. It shows how governments prepared for the unthinkable while keeping their own citizens in the dark about who would be saved and who would be left behind. Timeline of key events. The foundation for Moscow's secret underground began in the 1930s under Stalin's orders. Construction accelerated dramatically after the United States demonstrated its atomic capability at Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945. Source: Russian State Military Archive, declassified 2002. Soviet engineers realized that their leadership needed more than basement shelters. They needed an entire parallel infrastructure that could function independently for weeks or months. By the 1950s, a separate metro line known informally as Metro 2 was already operational, running parallel to the public Moscow Metro but far deeper underground. This system connected the Kremlin to key government buildings, military headquarters, and an underground command bunker codenamed Remenki, located beneath the Academy of Sciences. The tunnels were built at depths reaching 50 to 200 meters, far below the public metro's maximum depth of 84 meters. Construction continued in secret throughout the 1960s and 1970s, with entire brigades of workers sworn to silence under threat of imprisonment. The system allegedly includes 4 main lines spanning over 200 kilometers, though exact measurements remain classified. One line reportedly runs southwest to a massive bunker complex near Nukovo Airport, designed to evacuate leadership by air if Moscow became untenable. 1960s to 1980s, peak construction period. The most ambitious component was constructed in the late 1970s, an underground city beneath Remenki capable of housing up to 15,000 people. Former Soviet officials described it as containing everything needed for long-term survival, including food storage, water treatment facilities, air filtration systems, medical centers, and communication hub. The facility was equipped with its own power generation and was designed to remain sealed for up to 30 years if necessary. After the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991, rumors about Metro 2 intensified. Urban explorers and journalists began investigating, though access remained strictly forbidden. In 1994, a group of Moscow diggers, members of the urban exploration community, claimed to have penetrated parts of the system through abandoned maintenance shafts. Their photographs showed reinforced tunnels with rail tracks, blast doors, and ventilation systems far more sophisticated than anything in the public metro. How do you keep 15,000 people secret? The Russian government maintained official silence until 2003, when former KGB officer Vladimir Yasnev publicly confirmed that a secret metro system existed and was still operational. He stopped short of providing details about its extent or current use, citing national security. Since then, occasional official acknowledgements have emerged, but comprehensive maps and access remain classified. Evidence and verification. The evidence for Metro 2 exists in layers, like the tunnels themselves. Declassified Soviet documents from the 1990s reference special underground facilities and budget allocations for deep infrastructure projects that far exceeded the costs of public metro expansion. Document. Soviet Ministry of Transportation budget reports, 1965 to 1985, partially declassified. These financial records show unexplained expenditures totaling billions of rubles over 2 decades. Eyewitness accounts form the second category of evidence. Multiple former metro workers, military personnel, and KGB officers have described their involvement in construction or security operations. These accounts consistently describe similar features: extreme depth, heavy security, and connections to government buildings. While individual details vary, the core claims align across dozens of independent witnesses. Physical evidence emerged through ground-penetrating surveys and seismic analysis. In 2009, a team of geophysicists conducting earthquake preparedness studies detected anomalous hollow spaces beneath central Moscow at depths inconsistent with known infrastructure. The survey was not published in full, but the lead researcher confirmed the findings pointed to structures of unknown purpose. Photographic evidence from urban explorers shows tunnel segments, blast doors, and ventilation shafts marked with Soviet-era construction codes that do not correspond to any public metro line. Russian authorities have arrested several explorers over the years for trespassing in restricted areas, which some interpret as confirmation that sensitive facilities exist in those locations. Official acknowledgement remains limited. The Russian Ministry of Defense has neither confirmed nor denied specific details about Metro 2, stating only that secure transportation infrastructure exists as part of national defense. This neither proves nor disproves the full extent of claims, but it confirms that something exists beyond the public metro. Conflicting views and gaps. Skeptics argue that Metro 2 stories have been exaggerated over decades of retelling. Some engineers point out that constructing 200 kilometers of deep tunnel in secret would require tens of thousands of workers, making total secrecy nearly impossible. They suggest the reality may be more modest, perhaps a few short connecting tunnels rather than an entire parallel metro system. Others question the logistics of maintaining such a facility. A system designed to house 15,000 people would require constant maintenance, supply deliveries, and staffing. Critics ask how this could occur without broader public awareness, especially after the fall of the Soviet Union, when government secrecy became less absolute. Some researchers propose that Metro 2 may have been real but is now abandoned. They note that maintaining nuclear bunkers became less of a priority after the Cold War, and Russia may have simply sealed off or decommissioned parts of the system. Without access, it is impossible to verify whether the facilities remain operational or have been left to decay. The gaps in the story are significant. No comprehensive map exists in the public domain. The exact number of entrances, the current security status, and whether the system is actively used remain unknown. The Russian government's policy of strategic ambiguity means that confirmation or denial serves different purposes depending on the political moment. Human impact. For ordinary Muscovites during the Cold War, the existence of Metro 2 represented an invisible barrier between those deemed essential and those deemed expendable. Millions of people lived their lives above a survival system they would never access, built with their labor and taxes. The psychological impact of this revelation, once rumors began circulating in the 1990s, was profound for some citizens who realized their government had made survival calculations that excluded them. The workers who built the system carried their own burdens. Many signed lifelong non-disclosure agreements and could never speak about their work, even to family. Some former workers have described feelings of pride mixed with unease, knowing they had created something extraordinary that existed to preserve a select few during humanity's darkest scenario. Expert lens: why it matters. Metro 2 is not just about tunnels. It is about the infrastructure of inequality during existential threat. Nuclear strategist and historian Dr. Svetlana Savrinskaya explains that Cold War bunker systems revealed which lives governments prioritized when resources were finite. These were not merely engineering projects, but physical manifestations of political hierarchy frozen in concrete and steel. Think of Metro 2 as a time capsule of fear. Every blast door and air filter represented a calculation about the future. Who would rebuild society if the worst occurred, and what society they would rebuild. The system assumed continuity of government, even if continuity of population became impossible. This matters beyond history because similar infrastructure likely exists in other nations. The United States, China, North Korea, and other nuclear powers have constructed their own continuity of government facilities. Metro, too, offers a window into how states prepare for catastrophe while maintaining peacetime secrecy, and what that secrecy costs in terms of public trust. This documentary was based on publicly available reports, expert interviews, and declassified materials. New information may emerge, and we'll update future episodes accordingly.